Well, we are still breaking down last night's presidential debate, likely the only one we will have seen between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And of course, a lot was said during that debate. Even more, though, you saw on screen without either candidate speaking a word.
Right. It's very true. Body language makes up 70% of communication. So we're going to talk about body language and what we saw last night in that debate. So joining us this morning is body language expert and author Melinda Marcus. Melinda, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We were just talking a few minutes ago, and we're definitely going to start off with that awkward kind of handshake that we saw at the top of the debate.
So that was a real power move that the Harris team came up with. They surprised Trump with it. And when she came over and really entered into his space, he felt a little bit like, hey, I don't want her taking this over and being in command. So what he did to try and counter it is he started his handshake up here. He's already taller than her, so that made it a little awkward. She had to be here. Generally, we shake hands down here. The arm and hand are down below the elbow. He had it above in order to make it awkward for her.
Exactly, and usually we see a shake at the center of the stage, so that made it even more awkward.
Well, we know how much communication is nonverbal. Let's talk about Kamala Harris and the kind of range of emotions that played out across her face. We had that two-shot that we saw all evening long. What stood out to you there?
So one of the things is she had a lot more emotional expression on her face. And her way of when she couldn't talk, given the mics were off, when he was saying something she didn't agree with, we saw head shaking, which he also did. But she also did a lot of kind of like laughing and that type of thing. Now, there was one point at which she started out with a laugh, and then she didn't really like what he was saying. And what we saw is her unconscious leaking stress. She did what you're doing right now, which compressed the lips. And then she went into this, what we call kind of a pout a little bit. And that, when somebody does that, it means I disagree and I have a different idea about it.
Wow.
I'm learning as we're talking here.
I am too. I'm like, oh, I need to talk to you off of the show. Let's talk about Donald Trump's expressions. There were a lot of them, a lot of scoffs, a lot of eye rolls as well, especially when he made that statement that they're eating people's pets.
Well, actually on that, it was really interesting. There's a scientist that is at Stanford University that studied tapes of Trump from his first presidency. And she actually first noticed that whenever he makes a strong statement that he really doesn't have belief in, he has a little tell that he does. He pauses right after, and he does a thing that she calls a stretched lower lip. It looks like this. And what that means is, you see it right there, right?
I see it, yeah.
So what's going on when that happens is he is actually, his unconscious is leaking out that I'm not so sure about this.
Interesting that the face can say so much without
really
saying a word. We know that hand gestures can too. We can use our hands to speak, just like I'm doing now. Both of them were very animated at times last night. Yeah,
so both of them used their hand gestures a little differently. I noticed that Harris used both hands together a lot when she was talking. And at the very end, you know, she actually, for the first time, kind of went here, which is palms up. And when you do that palms up, it's actually wanting to be open and asking for trust. What I found with Trump is most of the time he was just using his right hand, and he used it almost as a chop or this type of thing. And when I look at some of his rallies that he's done, he uses that exact body language throughout. And there was a point where both of them, and again, I think this is where coaching came in, they used something we call a precision grip. So what it is, it's this index finger, and you're making a point like this, and it's showing high confidence. But the reason I think it was coached is because they only did it a little bit, and then they defaulted back to what they normally used.
Got it. When it comes to body language, who do you think won that debate last night? Who seemed more confident?
Well, I'd have to say I think Harris got it.
There you go.
A lot of great insight this morning, Melinda Marcus. Thank you for sharing it with us. And now I'm going to be conscientious about every single movement I make today
I talk a lot with my hands too.
Toss it over to Greg Fields to talk about the weather.